Hello and welcome to the first Supplier Diversity and Small Business Economic Report of 2019. Hope everybody enjoyed their New Year's and hope you're ready to get back into work time. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and let's start the year off right. Today, I just want to talk about a couple of things that may not necessarily have hit this week, but more so over the past day or two, just because, as you know, with the holiday break, not really much has changed since the last uh, economic impact report or economic report, excuse me, which is to say that government's still shut down. The House is now taken over as the majority, or I'm sorry, the Democrats have taken over as the majority in the House, which we're going to get into the effects of that in a second. So everything's pretty much the same here. But to begin, let's go ahead and let's start about the jobs report that came out today. So as you can see, the U.S. economy added about 312 jobs in December. It's extremely strong. Came over well over predicted predictions in November. I think the original estimate in terms of jobs that were added in November were about 150,000. That has since been upgraded to 170,000. But still, to be able to almost double the November number is truly exceptional. I predicted that it was going to still be high. I didn't think it was going to be this high. So really, really extraordinary. Uh, so there's a big reason why the increase in jobs happened, and that's because the labor participation rate actually increased from 62.9% to 63.1%. So that's really big. So the more people would decide to come into the market or into the jobs market because the economy has been so strong, which led to a huge jump in the amount of people who were hired. The unemployment rate did increase from 3.6% to 3.9%, but still, with the participation rate increasing, that's really good. Uh, I would say that you would want some if you can get that participation rate over 65%, somewhere between 65 to 70%. That's really good, a really good economy. So if they're able to do that and keep unemployment this low, I mean that would be pretty good. So there's other things that they talk about in terms of, as you can see, kind of where these jobs are coming from, et cetera, et cetera. If you're interested in learning more about kind of how that happened and where it happened, feel free to check it out. But definitely just want to tell everybody about that. Now, with that being said, how does that affect small business growth? Small business growth also grew bigly in December as well. So almost 90,000 jobs were added by small businesses um, versus the November mark was around 38,000, so just under 40,000. So for both small businesses and just large corporations, when you add them together, or not add them together, but when you consider the two together, uh, it was a drop from 2017, but that's fine because unemployment decreased so much. That means that the job market was strong, so less available talent pool, which would obviously account for the lower hiring numbers. But it's still good. One of the things that I'm also noticing here, and we'll see if this trend continues. I don't want to make any estimates right now, but it appears as if small business job hiring are somewhere between just I'm going to give a large stretch right now, but somewhere between 20 and 30% of the jobs numbers that you see. So I'm going to track that for a little bit, see if that continues, so we can see. I don't want to make any estimates right now or anything like, hey, job right now, according if you take the ADP numbers and 89,000 divided by 312,000, they get you about 28%. So I don't know if that's high or low now, but we'll see kind of how that trend goes for 2019. I'll give you updates on kind of where we're at with that and how those numbers are affecting the economy overall, if at all. So next up, we have oil rises on trade talks. Uh, the gains capped by rising U.S. fuel stockpiles. So basically, this just essentially came up about how oil oil rises just because the U.S. This is the U.S. Yep. So U.S. and China have now indicated that they're going to continue talks, their trade talks, uh, starting in 2019. Because of that, a lot of, or in addition to the fact that jobs numbers are so good, stocks have increased for this month, or not month, whew, for this week. So huge jump up in the stock prices. So this is just one of the things that added to that. But the key here that you need to take away just from this article is that that U.S. and China are now saying that they're going to continue the trade talks forward into 2019, which we spoke about this previously, but that's really big. And if we can definitely get some type of agreement with them moving forward, I think that'll be extremely good for small businesses like ourselves. Next up, what it looks like to have a record number of women in the House of Representatives. So not gonna get too much into this, but as you are pretty much probably aware of, especially if you follow this web series, I guess, um, when it comes to the Congress, so in particular the House of Representatives, this is the most diverse it's ever been. One of the big reasons why is because of the number of women. So if you're interested in kind of like the numbers aspect, I think that this is definitely the way to go. The key here is, and this is again, if you want to do a deep dive, you can definitely take a look and kind of look at these numbers yourself. But the key here is, now the Democrats have that majority. Just kind of looking at how they're planning on conducting business, if you will, political business. There's some analysis on the fact that now that more women are in Congress, kind of how that is going to change how deals are done, and kind of looking at that. And again, I don't want to make, don't want to say anything here because because I may be wrong, but definitely check it out in terms of how that new piece of the political puzzle will now affect things moving forward. And the reason why that's pretty big is because, as you can see from the Associated Press, it says expect 2019 to be quiet in Congress for small businesses. Uh, and the reason being nothing to do with women. I guess that was a terrible transition, but nothing to do with women, more so political parties. So what we're seeing is that we're already seeing this now with the government shutdown in terms of friction and inability to come to a some type of agreement in a healthy timeline. So because of that, expect small businesses to suffer because of the parties grandstanding and making a point, unfortunately. For this article, it basically just talks about how expect things more so from your states versus the federal government. There are a few things that may happen here. We'll get back into healthcare and taxes, but whereas internet privacy is probably going to be something that both sides kind of come together. Consumers Privacy Protection Act basically requires businesses to disclose how they use personal information and gives consumers more control over how that information is used. Right now, it's being conducted for each state, but both sides agree that creating some sort of federal guidelines on that makes the most sense. Everything else kind of gets washed in partisan bickering. Healthcare, as you know, Obamacare, what's going to happen with that? Taxes, again, as you know, what's going to happen with the new tax bill, what's going to happen with that. Trade, as you're aware of the new NAFTA deal, which I've been saying for all of last year. Whatever that new NAFTA looks like, it is not passing quickly. So now with the new NAFTA deal, now that Dems have the majority in the House, they have issues with it. They're going to take a look at it. We'll see what happens with that. Uh, Employment issues, when we're talking about this is the overtime issues, overtime. Um, 4.2 million people may qualify for overtime now because of the new rules. Uh, and paid leave, kind of, when you go off for break, if you have, family, you're sick and whatnot, and you want to take care of them, how that plays into how much you're being paid. So these are some big issues for small businesses like ourselves. I know particularly for me, like understanding that healthcare and how that benefits or doesn't benefit a business is really, really big on in terms of how that's going to be handled. Taxes, I mean, I must admit, um, we did fall on the lower side of the tax bracket, so I'm pretty happy about that from a business perspective. I'm a little bit different because I'm a small business owners. You kind of get taxed on your business as well as personal, and I personally don't like how they do it anyway, but I but I highly doubt they're gonna deal with that issue anytime soon. So just those would probably be the big issues for me. Um, just because I'm a tech company, so kind of that NAFTA isn't as big for me unless if you're more so doing with manufacturing, I can definitely see it. But um, yeah, for me personally, and I don't really deal with overtime. So just in case you were wondering kind of what I'm looking at. But overall, these are the big things that we need to be watching out for. And unfortunately, it doesn't. There's no indication that this is going to go over well for us. But still keep your eye on the prize. Kind of understand what's going on when it comes to Congress because we have now shifted uh, gears here, and you definitely need to be aware. But projections. You're pretty much familiar with my projections, which is I expect slow growth for 2019. Um, we'll see how that goes, especially with the interest rates that have risen. We expect two more interest rate rises before the end of the year, um, as they're looking to combat inflation and their debt. But for right now, that's just kind of where we're at right now. So, with that being said, Happy New Year again. As always, thank you so much for your continued support, checking us out. If you have any questions, please comment, like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. That being said, thank you and have a great day.